Hello and welcome to another episode of What Gets Captured on Film. This is episode 16. I am your host, Dylan Paulson. And if you're new here, this is a show all about movies and movie news. Each week, I'll give you some of the biggest headlines in the movie industry and give you my thoughts about them as well. And I like to go through topics in order of their importance. Some small stories first. I'll talk about what I've been watching. Then we'll get into the biggest headlines. And then I'll give you a wrap-up of some smaller items as well. So this week we'll be talking about everything from January 12th through January 18th. And again, just a reminder, this show is collaborative. We'll go with collaborative. If you want to contribute to the show, If you want to contribute to the show, you can write into the show with your question, comment, inquiry, disagreement, controversy. Write into the show. We'll talk about it on the air. whatgetscaptured@gmail.com. Feel free to interact with me on the air that way. And as always, shows go live Wednesdays at 9 a.m. every week. I never miss a week. So let's get into some smaller news stories. But before we do that, let's get into the box office results from the past weekend. So I like to end every show by going into the movies that are coming to theaters in the upcoming week, and then in the following week's show, I'll talk about how those movies did. Last week was a small week, as it probably, historically is. It's January. Not a lot of movies open this week, but we had so Spider-Man No Way Home was in the top spot for 5 weeks, and it has been dethroned. The number one movie this week was Scream, and it opened this weekend. So we have number one with Scream getting in domestic $30 million. Number two was Spider-Man No Way Home. No surprise there, with $20 million last weekend, all domestic. Number three was Sing 2 with just shy of $8 million. Number four, The 355 with $2.26 million. And number five was The King's Man at $2.2 million. And then I usually will only read the top five, but number six was Belle. That opened last weekend as well. That was an anime. $1.65 million domestically. Not too bad, but not too great either. Scream, great for Scream. That movie had a huge marketing push, even a long time ago, and it's getting pretty good reviews. It seems like there's a lot of comedy in it, which is par for the course for Scream. A lot of the original cast returns, so it seems like it's a good sequel or reboot of the series. So good for that movie. Hope it does well, as I hope all movies do well, for the most part. Okay, that was it. That's the box office results. Let's get into some small news stories. So, first things first, The Hollywood Reporter released a writers' roundtable featuring David Chase, Maggie Gyllenhaal, James Samuel, Cian Heder, and Zach Baylin. Lots of interesting little things to talk about lots of interesting little things that they talk about as successful writers working in the industry. I will always hype up these, creators roundtables. The actors one are super interesting. I think directors ones are super interesting, and the writers ones I think are just up there as well. I think it's just kind of a mid year for movies. I don't think it's a great year for movies. I think some good stuff came out this year, but not too much to celebrate. So I'm kind of mid on this writers roundtable. Usually I'd be hyping it up all over the place, but David Chase is there, Maggie Gyllenhaal's there, and then the other three people have. I think if Jane Campion was there from The Power of the Dog, it would have been a little more interesting, but for whatever reason he was not. So, or she, I'm not actually sure. Jane Campion is a woman. So so if she was there, I think it would have been much more interesting. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to say about that, was that it is there if you want to watch it. And if you want to be in the industry, if you want to be a writer, there's a lot of interesting things that come from those roundtables. I would consume those like nobody's business if I was you wanting to be a writer. So next up is the Pga Awards. They've been postponed. The ceremony has been postponed due to COVID concerns. It was originally supposed to take place on February 26th, and now it has been moved to March 19th. All the other dates, including nomination announcements, will remain the same. We'll see the nominees for the Pga Awards on Thursday, January 27th. Not much else to say about that. Leslie Grace, who is the new Batgirl for HBO Max's exclusive movie Batgirl, revealed a character shot of her in the new suit, the Batgirl suit. She put it on her Instagram and on Twitter. I think it looks great. It looks like it just came straight out of the 1960s comics from Batgirl. It looks like a modern riff on what we saw with the Adam West Batgirl costume. It looks great. It looks like a great ode to the 60s, and it looks like a great modern next generation step for the character. Costume department has no bearing over the overall quality of a movie, but this costume department did a great job for this costume. So good on them. And the last thing I wanted to talk about before we get into what I've been watching this week is that The Godfather is getting a 4K release, a 4K re-release on Blu-ray for the 50th anniversary of the original film. The going price on Amazon, I just looked it up real quick. I don't know if this is par for the course or if there's a little bit of a discount, but the going price on Amazon for the Godfather trilogy, the new 4K trilogy, $182.99. But that's not necessarily the news here. I'm sure a lot of people would want to pay for that and have no problem paying for that. My problem here, and this is, I think, is what is newsworthy about this, is that the set contains The Godfather 1, The Godfather 2, and the re-edit version of The Godfather Part 3. And if you are unaware of what happened, The Godfather Part 3 came out in 1990. The previous two movies came out in 72 and 74, respectively. So there was a great period of time between 2 and 3. So 3 comes out in 1990. It has a bunch of Academy Award nominees. People think kind of less of it than the original 2. Time goes on. Francis Ford Coppola, in December of 2020, so, 30 years later, re-edits the movie and retitles the movie. It's now called The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. And in this trilogy, this 4K trilogy, only that re-edited version is included in the set. And a lot of people might think this isn't really a big deal. I saw, a lot of comments on this Twitter feed. A lot of, this was going around on Reddit too. A lot of people are saying, what does it matter? It's just The Godfather Part 3. Were you really going to watch it anyway? Or is it really that good? Does it really matter if it's the re-edit or not? Because apparently they were both kind of bad. I haven't seen The Godfather Part 3 and I haven't seen Coda. But what I do have to say about this is that preservation of film is important, and physical media is the way in which film is preserved on a grand scale. Streaming services are so they ebb and flow with time and licenses, but if you buy a physical version of a movie, you have that for life. Right. And, unless it gets scratched or you lose your DVD player or whatever, the case happens there. You don't need a license. Well, what you're essentially doing is buying a license to watch that movie in the comfort of your own home and not to, sell it and promote screenings of it or, whatever. You're purchasing a license to have it in your own home. But what streaming services, you're not purchasing the film. You're purchasing access to a limited license of the film, allegedly limited license. So the semi-permanent nature of physical media should really encapsulate every edition of a movie, and I mean edition with an E, every edition of a movie. I have a Blade Runner Blu-ray, and it's just the first one, and it has maybe 4 versions of the film on it, maybe more. You know, the theatrical cut, the director's cut, the final cut, the work cut, the workman's cut, workflow edition, and then a special television version. So that's 5 versions of the movie. You know, all of those are included in this one set. But this, 50th anniversary Godfather 4K remaster for nearly $200 only includes the most recent re-edit of The Godfather Part 3. It just seems... Well, it doesn't seem anything. It's wrong. This is not how we preserve movies. And ultimately, what I think they should do is go back on this and get the original re-edit, or the original Godfather Part 3, and put it in there and give viewers both options to watch the movie. Another example, I have the Alien Anthology on Blu-ray. I don't have the 4K. I have the Blu-ray from 2008 or whatever it was released. It has every copy of each movie. Each movie has its own director's cut and theatrical version, including Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, which were both historically not good movies, right? But it doesn't matter the quality of the movie. Physical media aims to preserve these, every edition of a movie. And I think that Paramount should go back on this and do it over. And this is kind of the same thing with when Ghostbusters announced they were doing like this full, Ghostbusters whole collection, and it was Ghostbusters 1, 2, and Afterlife. But where's the 2016 all-female Ghostbusters? I don't care how bad it was. If I want a Ghostbusters full collector's edition, I want that movie in there. We need to preserve everything. And so that was it. That's all I really wanted to say. Get a little heated for no reason. Probably a bunch of people don't really care, but because it's physical, people don't really care about physical things anymore. But that's that. Okay, let's get into what I've been watching this week. I watched The Lost Daughter, directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, written by Maggie Gyllenhaal, based on the novel The Lost Daughter by Elena Ferrante. Stars Olivia Colman, Jessie Buckley, Dakota Johnson, also Peter Skarsgård, and Ed Harris are in it as well. So I usually, when I have a movie to talk about, I make it the movie of the week. I title the show after it. I try and talk about it for a good bit of time so that if people are scouring the internet looking for conversations around a movie, they can find it and they can listen to it. They have plenty to listen about. I'm not going to do that with this movie because, I'll just tell you my opinion about it. It's very good. There's a lot of conversation around this movie in award circles that I think is warranted. This movie's very good, but for whatever reason, and I think I know the reason, I didn't connect with it. I think it's good technically, from a technical perspective. The directing is very, it's very consistent with what the thematic element of the script is. The writing is very consistent with thematic elements that it's trying to portray. The acting is very genuine, especially from the kids. The kids are great actors in this as well. The reason why I didn't connect with it is that it's a story about an older woman and what women go through in the early years of motherhood. And I cannot relate to that. I am a man and I do not have kids, and I am slightly younger than probably the average age that people have kids. So not only am I the wrong sex and gender for this, for the thematic retelling of this story, but I am also the wrong age. However, I think some of the things that the movie hits at are very human and very, like I said, genuine and earnest. I think it's worth a watch. It's on Netflix. Forgot to mention that. It's on Netflix. Written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, which I think is very interesting. She has always been sort of this, shadow to Jake Gyllenhaal, who really took off with his stardom. So it's good to see her carve out her own path, even though she did that with her acting years ago. The earliest I think I remember hearing her name was with The Dark Knight in 2008, but I'm sure she was around before that too. But it's really good to see her carve out her own career path with this, and I can only see her going up because this is her directorial debut. But, that was it, and to be honest, I feel like as a man that didn't connect with the movie, I feel like it would be unjust for me to really get into it and talk about it and, find the critiques, the cracks in the cement. I think it's unjust because the movie is clearly trying to tell a story for a certain group of people, and I am not included in that group of people. I can look at it as a movie, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed, gaining a perspective on life that I wouldn't have otherwise. So from that perspective, the movie was a success. It gave me a perspective on life that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. It surprised me. I think the first 10, 15 minutes are rather slow, but the whole movie is a little slow, but the first 10 minutes are trying to, as a viewer, you're trying to sink your claws into something to grab onto. What am I supposed to care about here? And it comes, but it comes slowly. The movie evolves, I think, rather slowly. So just know that going in. I don't think it's a pro or a con. Just know that going in. And that's, I think, all I want to say about that. I don't want to over talk about it. I don't want to try and mansplain it. I think that's all I really want to say about it. Again, very, very incredibly good. Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley both are so good in this role, in their roles, I should say. Can't say enough good things about it, but again, not for me. It literally wasn't made for my type of person. So I'll just move on. The other thing is I finished Ozark season 3. The first thing I want to say before I even talk about season 3 is that season 4 comes out this week. I will watch it. I think it comes out on Thursday or Friday this week in the US. I will watch it, but it was split into, and it's the final season of Ozark. It's split into 2 parts. And what Netflix is going to do is release the first part this week and then the next part TBD. Here's exactly what they're going to do. Netflix has split up the season into 2 parts. They're releasing the first part now. They're going to release the second part 6 months from now, and they're not going to give any notice about it. They're going to give very little fanfare to the series, and it's just going to kind of get shit out. And no one's going to talk about season 2 season 4 part 2 when it happens. Netflix has been doing this with their shows. They've been quietly canceling them by splitting the last season into 2 parts. And it's infuriating. It's frustrating, and it's really sad to see because Netflix at one time was the savior for TV shows, the savior for the creators that couldn't get put on Netflix or on cable television. So they went to the streaming service. The diamond in the rough of this industry. And they were given a chance. Think BoJack Horseman, right? Think Arrested Development. Both these shows couldn't get put on cable television. And Netflix gave them a space. And with both of these shows, they were given a very unceremonious final season that was split into 2 parts and then released 6 months apart. Arrested Development happened with season 5. BoJack Horseman happened with season 6, I believe. And now they're doing it again with Ozark. And to be honest, I think it's kind of funny that the 3 shows that I've noticed that Netflix has been doing this with, Arrested Development has Jason Bateman and Will Arnett in it. BoJack Horseman has Will Arnett. Ozark has Jason Bateman. So maybe the common thread is Arrested Development. Maybe they just were not fans of that show and have held some bitter vendetta against these people ever since. But I know that's not the case, but it sucks. It sucks that Netflix is doing this because it's the exact opposite of what they had done when these shows were saved from cable TV. And now they need somewhere else to go. They need to be saved from Netflix because they're being unceremoniously shit out. And it's a shame. That's what I wanted to say about season 4. I still am going to watch it. I like Ozark, but I'm pretty done with Netflix original shows. Other than Stranger Things. Stranger Things is like one of the only other titles on Netflix that I can stand. And I don't mean that I can stand. I can probably stand a lot of shows that's on Netflix, but and I just talked about, this movie, what was it called? The Lost Daughter, that is a Netflix original, and I loved it. And The Power of the Dog, too. That was a Netflix original. I loved that, too. So, yeah. But I'm pretty done with shows. Well, I'm pretty done with shows in general. That's kind of why I started a movie podcast anyway, just to give me an excuse to stop watching TV shows. I'm not kidding. No, I'm kidding. Am I? So season 3 of Ozark, I'm just going to talk about the complaints because that's all I wrote down. But there's a lot good here. There's a lot of good here. Biggest complaint is the kids, Charlotte and Jonah, are just like completely pushed to the back. They're just like totally side characters. And it was such a shame because in season 2, Charlotte had this really interesting arc about emancipating from the family. And I thought it was really going to go somewhere and put the family at a head. And it just didn't happen. It just went nowhere. And there was only one mention of it in the entirety of season 3. I was looking for it. There was only one mention of it. And it was toward the end of the season. So those characters are just like totally like the writers like forgot about them in this season. And I think that's kind of a flaw about writing, producing, and releasing a season of a show all at once is that you don't get active feedback, right? Even though, most of the series plot lines of a show that's released and, written, produced, and released in a regular cable cycle, say 22 episodes over 9 months, you still get feedback, right? Even though you start 3 months earlier than the then the show's going to air. So you start in June and the show goes up in September. I mean, you as in the production. Production starts in June and then you go in September, and then the show airs in September. You still get feedback. So if, a few episodes into the show, you're like, into the season, right? A few weeks in, and mid-October, you're like, a lot of reviewers are like, man, Jonah and Charlotte, need some sort of redemption here. Where's the requiem for Charlotte's attempted emancipation from the family? And then, you get to see that a few weeks later because, it's in real time. So that's a flaw of writing, producing, releasing a season of a show all at once, is that Charlotte was completely pushed aside. And the other plot hole was, and I mentioned this last week, was that when the KC mob blew up the Birds, office space, nothing ever came of it. There was no repercussion of that. It just happened. And it was unceremonious on the, I'm saying that word a lot. It was unceremonious on the mob's point of view. It wasn't warranted. So it kind of should warrant the Byrds to have some sort of, take some sort of action against the mob, but they're not going to, because the writers forgot about it. It was just like it was totally tossed aside, and that was never spoken of. No one ever, spoke of that. Never mentioned in season 3, which was so weird. Why even put it? Whatever. The writers just forgot about it. They totally forgot about it. It was a mess. That was a mess. Especially if you watch season 2 straight into season 3, you're like, wait, they're back there, and then it's never mentioned again. But it's whatever. Okay, so there's some good things. Season 3 has a lot. The casino is awesome. The casino is such a good step up from season 2 to season 3. Season 2, we're just like at the Blue Cat Lodge over and over and over again. And, we bought the mausoleum and it just like the setting got so tired so quickly. So the casino is a really bright, really fun, vibrant environment that can bring in a lot of interesting characters and storylines. Absolutely great addition. I'm so happy that it wound up working out. The casino got built, and it was such a good thing for the show. And I don't mean for the plot of the show. It was good that Marty Byrde got for the quality of the show and the writing. It is good that they made the casino work. The writers made the casino work. It is good for the show. And that's pretty much the highest praise I can give this season is how vastly different and a step and how improved it is from season 2. Because season 2 just felt like such a drag, but still good. Good but slow and not. As far as the quality for TV shows is concerned, Ozark season 2 is great, but season 3 is much better than that. I still, however, think season 1 is the best because it's just so airtight. And I watched it recently, a few weeks ago, for the 3rd time. It's just so good, so high quality. The writing, the dialogue, it's just airtight. Everything is so good. And I think that seasons 2 and 3 get a little messy, especially with, this is a plot that's been dragged out for such a long time that, the writers get mixed up in places. I'm talking about plot holes here. So it's not as airtight as I would like, or as season 1 was, but it's still great. Another thing is that the tension between the parties of the show is all really good. Something happens and then there's a repercussion. You're like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And it hits you. It's great. It's great. Things happen without you realizing they're going to happen, which is great. Catches you off guard. Subject expectations. I hate that term, but it happens. It works. It's great. It's all great. I love the introduction of, I forget his name, of Navarro as a character. Great. Very interesting. However, I think that there's a couple times that Wendy will interact with him, and I think he makes decisions that I don't think, the character that we've built up in our heads as Navarro from seasons 1 and 2, I don't think he would make the decisions that season 3 Navarro, now that we know him, is actually making. Just seems a little more wimpy than he would be, but the show must go on, as we say. I'm very intrigued to see what the relationship is like in season 4, part 1. God, I fucking hate that. And that's all I wanted to say about that, and that is all I've been watching this week. So let's get into the news. A couple big news stories I want to talk about. Number 1, the 28th annual SAG Award nominees were unveiled earlier this week. The SAG Awards are entirely nominated and voted on by union members. Being nominated and winning SAG Awards is a huge honor, on par with Academy Awards. Some actors even putting the intrinsic importance of winning of a SAG Award higher than the Oscars because of the union-only member voting. In past years, there is a ton of overlap between nominees here and in other award shows such as the Pga Awards, the WGA Awards, and the Oscars. The nominees for any movie-related awards, not television awards, are as follows. Outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture. Nominees are Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, House of Gucci, and King Richard. Outstanding performance by a female actress in a leading role. Nominees are Jessica Chastain from In the Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman in The Lost Daughter, Lady Gaga in House of Gucci, Jennifer Hudson in Respect, Nicole Kidman in Being the Ricardos. Next up, outstanding performance by a male actor in a leading role. The nominees are Javier Bardem from Being the Ricardos, Benedict Cumberbatch in The Power of the Dog, Andrew Garfield in Tick, Tick, Boom, Will Smith in King Richard, Denzel Washington in The Tragedy of Macbeth, and that's it. Female actress in a supporting role is Ariana DeBose in West Side Story, Catriona Balfe in Belfast, Ruth Negga in Passing, Kate Blanchett in Nightmare Alley, and Kirsten Dunst in The Power of the Dog. Male actor in a supporting role, Ben Affleck in The Tender Bar, Bradley Cooper in Licorice Pizza, Troy Koster from Coda, Jared Leto, House of Gucci, and Cody Smith-McPhee from The Power of the Dog. And next up, stunt ensemble in a motion picture. We have the nominees are Black Widow, Dune, The Matrix Resurrections, No Time to Die, and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm not going to make a big deal about what I think will win, blah, 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 but since I have it right here, since I've watched a few of these movies, I'm going to give brief predictions of what I think will win. Outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture, I think Don't Look Up is going to get it. But I haven't seen literally any of the other movies, but I think Don't Look Up is great. So, yeah. Female actress in a leading role, I think that Olivia Colman from The Lost Daughter is going to win. Nicole Kidman, I would love to see her win. I would love to see Lady Gaga win. I would love to see Lady Gaga win too. She totally deserves it. Jessica Chastain, I love her as well, but Olivia Colman was top tier. So, did Jessie Buckley get nominated? No, that's a shame that Jessie Buckley didn't get nominated. She was great. She was on par with Olivia Colman. Male actor in a leading role, I think that it's going to go to Andrew Garfield. Period. End of story. Sorry, Benedict Cumberbatch. Andrew Garfield deserves it. But I think Benedict Cumberbatch is going to win, but I would prefer Andrew Garfield to win. If I was voting, I would vote for Andrew Garfield. Female actress in a supporting role, I don't know. Oh, no, Kirsten Dunst. Oh, Kirsten Dunst is going to win that. Oh, no doubt. Kirsten Dunst is going to win. You just know some things by how, critics will talk about performances in movies. Kirsten Dunst is going to win that. No doubt. Male actor supporting role, I don't know. Toss up. I like Cody Smith-McPhee in The Power of the Dog. I didn't see anything else. Ben Affleck in The Tender Bar has been getting a lot of praise too. Bradley Cooper has. Jared Leto, I haven't really heard that much about him in House of Gucci other than that his makeup was great and people didn't really recognize him. I mean, he's a great actor. I mean, Dallas Buyers Club was incredible. I mean, that was an Oscar-winning performance. I don't know. We'll see. That's a toss-up. I don't really know. And stunt ensemble, I can't answer because I haven't seen literally any of these movies. So let's move on. The award show will take place on the evening of Sunday, February 27th, 2022. So let's move on to number 2. Black Panther Wakanda Forever has resumed production this week, as per The Hollywood Reporter. Production was halted on the follow-up to the 2018 film due to star Letitia Wright suffering from an onset injury. We reported on this show a few weeks ago that production had halted while they were waiting for her to recover, and it seems that at this point she has. Production was set to begin again last week, but was delayed following a few positive COVID-19 tests. We wish Wright the speediest of recoveries and hope the rest of production will go smoothly. However, it certainly cannot be understated how impactful the absence of a main actor can be on the production. Black Panther Wakanda Forever is directed once again by Ryan Coogler, and the film is slated for release on November 11th, 2022. Insiders that spoke to The Hollywood Reporter claim that the movie will hit that date, and I have every inclination to believe them. I don't really have much else to say about this, but I'm happy that production is beginning again. Black Panther, the first one, was great. great, like excellent. And obviously going to be a huge loss and letdown that Chadwick Boseman is not in this. I'm interested to see what they do for him in terms of, some sort of ceremonial goodbye to him as Black Panther and as a member of Marvel. So, but like I said here in the write-up, that Letitia Wright, not being on set and they filmed scenes around her. They filmed scenes with other actors and she wasn't on set for them. That can cause such a disruption to production and to the quality of the film that I don't know. I think the quality of the film is going to hurt because of that. I do. But at the same time, we're looking at Marvel and they can just like make any actor and any performance CG and they just shit out a movie. So whatever. It's going to hit that date. November 11th, they're not going to delay it. That's so far out. Whatever. Movie will be fine. Whatever. I'm over Marvel. Okay, number 3, Rawson Marshall Thurber, directed of the widely successful Netflix original film Red Notice from earlier last year, is reportedly writing 2 sequels to be filmed back-to-back, according to Deadline. Red Notice was Netflix's most expensive movie to date, costing $200 million for its production budget alone, and became Netflix's most popular movie of all time in the first 28 days of its release. Remember, Netflix counts popularity as hours watched per period of time. So that's probably why it became popular. So many people watch it in such a short amount of time. According to Deadline's source, the hope is to begin production in early 2023, so we likely won't see these films until summer of 2024. Will people have forgotten about the first film by then? Time will tell. In terms of the story, the next film in the ever-growing series sets up itself to ameliorate any writing issues I had with the first film, at the assumption that Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot all return for both films, which has not been confirmed as of yet. We'll continue to update on the untitled sequels as their stories progress. I thought this interesting and potentially a little unlikely. Netflix is kind of back and forth with whether or not they want to produce sequels to their films. They did 3 Kissing Booth films, and all 3 of them were not reviewed very well. Red Notice was reviewed kind of mid, but it was so popular that I think that they had to, do it again. It became their most popular movie, and I don't think they really care about critics' reviews because it has the stars attached to it, and people aren't going to pay to see it. The reason why Netflix values time so much is because if people are on Netflix, that means they're not on another platform. They're not on YouTube. They're not on Hulu, Disney Plus. They're not on cable. They're spending their time. So any movie that has a large amount of views is good for Netflix's value proposition to say, look how many people are watching this. It's to say, look how many people are still on our platform. So, sequels, back-to-back sequels, filmed at the same time, not too unusual with big budget movies. It's better for the cast, which can be in high demand, especially Dwayne Johnson these days. So, but yeah, to be honest, I was kind of like meh on the first movie, but the way the first movie ended and how the second movie could ameliorate any problem that I had with the first one makes me excited. But production is going to begin in early 2023. We're not going to see these movies for 2 years from now at the earliest. So this is a ways off. This is a long ways off. So, you know what? I'm going to set that story aside and we'll see you when we see you, Red Notice 2 and 3. Okay, so number 4, Deadline reports that Jake Gyllenhaal and Guy Ritchie are teaming up for an untitled Afghanistan war movie from Amazon and MGM. Richie is writing/directing the film, and his usual writing partner, Ivan Atkinson, will co-write and produce. Filming is set to begin this month in Spain. Jake Gyllenhaal is a Hollywood heavyweight, giving strong performances since he was a teen in Donnie Darko and previously played a member of the U.S. Armed Forces in 2005's Jarhead. He was nominated for an Oscar in 2005 for his performance in Brokeback Mountain, and his more recent endeavors include End of Watch, Nightcrawler, Nocturnal Animals, Okja, Spider-Man Far From Home, and The Guilty. Guy Ritchie is a writer-director known for his fast-paced dialogue and unique plot pacing. He is known for Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, and more recently, Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the Aladdin remake, and his upcoming Operation Fortune this March. We'll continue to update about this film as news comes out. Yeah, so we don't really know much of anything about this movie other than Jake Gyllenhaal and Guy Ritchie are teaming up for an Afghanistan war movie. Very interesting. I like Guy Ritchie. I think he could have a really interesting take on the Afghanistan war. I'm curious on what the tone is going to be. His movies tonally can go all over the place, but his scripts can usually have like a strong amount of comedy in them, which I don't know. Tonally could do anything for a war movie. Jake Gyllenhaal's great. I'll watch him in anything. End story. Number 5, Weird Al Yankovic. Let me just start that again. Number 5, Weird Al Yankovic, iconic parody artist, is getting a feature film about his life, filming this February. Weird, the Al Yankovic story, as the screenplay is titled, has been written by Yankovic himself and Funny or Die writer-director Eric Appel, and will be directed by Appel. Daniel Radcliff is set to star as Al Yankovic. The film would be an exclusive Roku channel original. Appel and Yankovic previously worked together to produce a fake trailer in 2010, also called Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, with Aaron Paul as Yankovic in that Funny or Die sketch. Yankovic says about this new project, quote, "When my last movie, UHF, came out in 1989, I made a solemn vow to my fans that I would release a major motion picture every 33 years, like clockwork. I'm very happy to say we're on schedule, and I am absolutely thrilled that Daniel Radcliffe will be portraying me in the film. I have no doubt whatsoever that this is the role future generations will remember him for," end quote. Appel added, quote, "When Weird Al first sat me down against my will and told me his life story, I didn't believe any of it, but I knew that we would have to make a movie about it," end quote. While slightly disappointing that the film would be exclusive to the Roku channel, a streaming service I didn't even know existed until today, it is slightly less disappointing that the Roku channel offers free ad-supported subscriptions by creating a free account, at least for the time being. Other than Funny or Die, Eric Appel is known for directing episodes of various TV shows such as Silicon Valley, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, New Girl, Teachers, Son of Zorn, and many others. Weird Al Yankovic is known for essentially creating the pop song parody genre in the early 80s with Eat It, spoofing Michael Jackson's Beat It, Another One Rides the Bus, spoofing Queen's Another One Bites the Dust, and I Love Rocky Road, which is a spoof of Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll. Then became a pop culture comedy icon with UHF, the movie, in 1989. Throughout the 90s, Yankovic continued to release singles and albums to commercial and critical appeal, winning 5 Grammys throughout his career. In recent years, however, he has struggled to capture that same level of popularity due to the advent of YouTube. Yankovic announced a massive year-spanning tour last month, indicating he has no desire to slow down. Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, could be seen by the end of this year, depending on how long principal photography takes. Releasing a spoof film right in the middle of Oscar movie season is just the marketing that Yankovic would pull off anyway. We'll continue to update as details get released. I saw this today and was incredibly excited. I don't get excited for news and casting stories too often, but I love Weird Al. And Daniel Radcliffe is an incredible actor, and this shows that there's really some talent behind it. Al Yankovic is writing it. I love his humor. He's so funny. Eric Appel, I don't know anything about him. But he seems funny. Al Yankovic likes him. They have a 12-year plus relationship because they worked together in 2010 for the Funny or Die sketch. So clearly they have a good rapport. They wrote the screenplay together. I'm really excited for this. There's nothing else, nothing more I can say. I'm so excited for this. Filming is going to begin in February, which is very soon. Let's say it's a 3-month shoot, February, March, April. And then 3, 4, 5 months of post-production, September. This movie could come out in October or November of this year. Easily. So I hope that is the case. No doubt. I really, really hope that's the case. I want to see this movie this year. And like I said, Releasing a spoof film right in the middle of Oscar movie season is the exact marketing that Yankovic would pull off anyway. It's exactly what he would do. His whole life is a joke. He's awesome. He's the most famous accordion player that's ever lived. That might not be true, but so that's all I wanted to say about that. Bring that to people's attention. That is exciting stuff, people. That's great. And here's the wrap up. As per a statement, Elliot Page will join transgender documentary Nel Mio Nome as executive producer. The Hollywood Reporter reports that Alison Brie and John Cena will co-star in an action comedy called Freelance from director Pierre Morel. Multiple sources report that Asa Butterfield and Natalia Dyer will co-star as siblings in a new horror thriller, All Fun and Games, from the Russo brothers production company. The Hollywood Reporter reports that Rebecca Front, Corey Johnson, and Ethan Kai have joined the cast of upcoming HBO Max exclusive Batgirl. Deadline reports that Danny Ramirez will join A24's Stars at Noon from director Claire Denis. Deadline reports that Aaron Eckhart will star in a new action pick titled The Bricklayer, being produced by Gerard Butler's production studio. Deadline reports that Greenwich Entertainment has acquired Ali and Ava, which is now set for summer 2022 theatrical release date. Paramount announced that Kendrick Lamar, Dave Free, Matt Stone, and Trey Parker are all set to produce a new film from writer Vernon Chatman. I would have put that as an actual story, but I didn't think it was that big a deal because Matt Stone and Trey Parker aren't writing it, they're producing it. So, multiple sources report a documentary about Russian informant and assassination attempt survivor Alexei Navalny will come to CNN and HBO Max. Deadline reports that Pete Davidson is set to star in horror thriller The Home for Miramax with James DeMonico directing. Deadline reports that Rupert Friend and Richard Ayoade join the cast of Wes Anderson's The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar for Netflix. Deadline reports that George Clooney and Julia Roberts' rom-com shooting has been delayed in Australia due to COVID. Deadline reports production has begun on a new film titled Honor Society starring Anjali Rice, Gaten Matarazzo, and Christopher Mintz-Plasse. Deadline reports that director Janik Ambrose is directing a film adaptation of the play Nixon's Nixon, with James Cromwell producing, Deadline reports Lorraine Bracco, Nora Zehetner, Julia Lerner, Abby James Witherspoon, and Noah Cottrell join Mel Gibson in The Boys of Summer. Deadline reports that Ethan Hawke and Miala Harold join Julia Roberts and Mahershala Ali in Netflix thriller Leave the World Behind. And that is all the news. So, what's coming to theaters this weekend? Well, IMDb does this sometimes. They'll just, I'll click on the what's new in theaters, section of the website, and they'll have movies that have a release date somewhere. I know. So this first one, Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerriere, directed by Guy Ritchie. I know it's not coming to theaters this week, but I know that I'm not going to talk about it in March because IMDb has already put it. So I'm going to talk about it here, but I know, hold on, throw down your pitchforks. It's coming in March. But Special Agent Orson Fortune and his team of operatives recruit one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars to help them on an undercover mission when the sale of a deadly new weapons technology threatens to disrupt the world order. Directed by Guy Ritchie, starring Aubrey Plaza, Jason Statham, Josh Hartnett, and Hugh Grant. Sounds really interesting. Next up, Redeeming Love. Sold into prostitution as a child, Angel knows nothing but betrayal. Can Her Heart Ever Be Mended? Based upon the novel by Francine Richards, directed by DJ Caruso, and starring Abigail Cowan, Tom Lewis, Famke Janssen, and Logan Marshall Green. And then next up, The King's Daughter, sequel to The King's Man. No, I'm kidding. King Louis XIV's quest for immortality leads him to capture and steal a mermaid's life force, a move that is further complicated by his illegitimate daughter's discovery of the creature. Directed by Sean McNamara, starring Pierce Brosnan, William Hurt, Benjamin Walker, and Kaya Scodelario. So that's everything coming to theaters. That's all the news. That is what gets captured on film. End show. Not really, but kind of, yeah. So that's the end. That's all I have for you. How long is the show? Yeah, just under an hour. So big show, but not too much I had to talk about. I spat it all out to you through this microphone. You're going to hear it via your headphones straight to your ear holes. New shows every Wednesday, 9 a.m. and your local podcast services. There's a YouTube at noon. No video, just audio only. I put out a new trailer for the show. Hopefully that gets some traction out. Right into the show, whatgetscaptured@gmail.com. We can talk about anything. Disagree with me. I highly encourage it. And I am Dylan Paulson. This is What Gets Captured on Film. I hope you have a lovely, wonderful day. Stay safe out there.